towards safe innovation.
So, good afternoon. My name is Alan. I come from the Malta Financial Services Authority. I'm accompanied by Neil, who comes from the Malta Digital Innovation Authority. Today we will be delivering a presentation in relation to safe innovation in Malta. So how we treat safe innovation and what we were doing in the past years to enable this from happening. So from my end, I will take approximately 20 minutes, and then Neil will take approximately 20 minutes, and then we will leave some time for questions. So from my end, I will be discussing, starting by firstly defining what safe innovation is, what do we mean by safe innovation. We'll also speak about our role as regulators in this. Following that, we will be speaking about a couple of case studies or success stories that we had in Malta in relation to this. We're also going to discuss a bit what regulators in the financial sector are currently speaking about. And finally, we're going to end up with a bit what we are seeing as emerging. So, safe innovation. Let's start by defining innovation first. So, innovation, the process of creating, improving, or implementing new ideas. So, what does safe innovation then mean? So, it's the same exact definition with some add-ons. So, all of a sudden, we start speaking about the people, we start speaking about the environment, about ethical standards, compliance, regulation, and also risk management. But perhaps the key word within the definition lies in the balance between creativity and progress with safety considerations. And taking this part within the definition, we think that this is what we should do as regulators, embracing specifically and achieving specifically this balance. We do not wish to end up in a jurisdiction whereby it is over-regulated that will stifle the economy, but at the same time, we do not wish to end up in a situation which is catastrophic. Now, incidentally, this picture was taken in the 1930s. It iconically exemplifies the perfect example of a bank run. It is also the worst nightmare that we would have as financial services regulators. So our role as regulators is to embrace innovation, but we also, at the same time, have to continue to meet our statutory objectives of financial stability, market integrity, and consumer protection. Let's give some examples of how this have worked with our jurisdiction. So the first case study is the VFA Framework. So in 2018, Malta was one of the few countries in the world who have legislated the area of crypto assets. This was quite an ambitious framework. The framework is still there, but it will be replaced by the MiCA regulation. We currently have amongst 30 license holders under this framework and also a number of issuers. So this makes us one of the most experienced regulators in crypto assets in the world at the moment. Second case studies, it's the regulatory sandbox. So we have developed also an MFSA fintech regulatory sandbox. This is more of a regulatory sandbox rather than a technology sandbox. And what we essentially do is that we invite persons who may be regulated entities or unregulated entities or service providers who come with something innovative, and they can test it, especially where there is no regulatory clarity in the area, to test it within that sandbox. The process usually takes typically four stages. There is the proposal stage, the application stage, the testing stage, and the exit stage. And following that, there's another process through which an entity might make that implied in practice. The last case study, the Digital Operation Resilience Act. Now, the Digital Operation Resilience Act is specifically what I do for a living. So within the Malta Financial Services Authority, we have implemented this regulation. In 2020, the European Commission made a number of legislative proposals in relation to digital finance. One of them was the Digital Operation Resilience Act. The other two were MICA and the proposition for a pilot regime for DLTs within market infrastructures. So the Digital Operation Resilience Act is a European regulation. I didn't hear a lot of people speaking about this today. So if you're a financial entity and you operate in the European Union, as of the 17th of January of this year, you need to be compliant with this regulation. Now, this is quite a comprehensive regulation. It sits on 5 main pillars, and it is also supplemented by a number of level 2 text. But what we have done differently is that we managed to master the principle of proportionality. And we have made this regulation very easy and very approachable for the financial entities in our jurisdiction. So we have a number of entities who operate in different jurisdictions, and we have received very positive comments in relation to how we're currently legislating it, the assistance that we are giving to financial entities registered in Malta, and the way how we have simplified and facilitated compliance with the regulation in Malta. So this is a snapshot of our website, where we have the part specifically related to the DORA regulation. We have simplified this a lot, especially, for example, for incident reporting, for significant cyber threat reporting, the area related to advanced testing, and so on and so forth. So this is a very good success story, although it is a quite an extensive regulation. We have, as I explained, received very positive feedback, and we are very proud to see that our financial entities and our jurisdictions were also very keen in working on this regulation, and it was actually a very good success story. Now, what are regulators at the moment speaking mostly about? So first and foremost, without any surprise, AI and its implications, of course, the level of adoption of AI systems, we're noticing that is increasing drastically, of course. However, there are still a number of areas which we need to understand more, and I will be finishing on this, and I will also give the floor to Neil, who's going to explain exactly on what we're doing in this. The second one is, of course, also tokenization. Tokenization is also being adopted by central banks and by regulators. Central bank digital currency, and of course, it follows cross-border payments, stable coins, financial stability and resilience, also coming from the rapidly changing technological landscape, of course, environmental considerations, and last but not least, the level of partnership and collaboration that there needs to be between authorities, financial entities, and also technology providers. Now, before I give the floor to Neil, the last thing that is creating a lot of concern, more of a lot of concern, a lot of questions, it is in relation to AI agents, which was very amply discussed during the previous panel, because now, all of a sudden, it's not only that we are delegating the execution, but we're also delegating decision-making. And when that comes into money terms, then people tend to ask a lot of questions. So this is something that we're emerging. We're not completely clear whether there is sufficient regulation in technical terms regulating this. And it is maybe the puzzle that we need to make as a next step. In your good hands, Neil.
Thank you very much, Alan. I'm always happy to see MFSA sharing the stage with us. They're one of the foremost regulators in Malta. Financial services is huge there, so it's a very big remit. I'll be moving more towards the AI side of things now and showing you what Malta's been doing in that aspect, but not just from the regulation side. I'll show you what Malta's like for AI innovators, opportunities for businessmen to open up shop there, and what we've been doing to incentivize new digital startups to begin business there as well. So let's zoom out a bit first, right? Because we take it for granted that everyone knows where Malta is. It's our world, right? But it's still a tiny island of 500,000 people at the end of the day. So we're right under Sicily, under Italy, in the middle of the Mediterranean. But this is an advantage, actually. So why build innovative technology in Malta? It's a key question in this case. So the location is quite strategic. In the middle of the Mediterranean, you have access to all of Europe. There's trade routes, sea and air, and digitally we're very, very advanced. So the market's fully open, and it's a very thriving and powerful economy in this regard. On top of that, the support infrastructure for businesses is really good. So there's a very streamlined process to opening businesses in Malta. And we also offer a lot of support, even from MDIA side and other operators, for opening up digital tech businesses there. So you'll find a very friendly infrastructure. The economy, again, it's really good. And in terms of digital leadership, we're very much ahead, even in terms of Europe, so in the EU. Very skilled workforce in terms of IT, AI, and other SaaS skills. We have very good courses in academia in that regard. And we've also been reported to have an extremely high AI preparedness. And of course, the best part of all is our lovely sea, which you can see over there. So again, on the AI preparedness factor, there was a recent report by the IMF. This is a very well-respected authority worldwide, and they said Malta's very well positioned to take on AI businesses and systems. But what does this mean? So I'll give you a bit more statistics to understand better. So the Maltese are very optimistic about AI, even as persons on the work. We know that job displacement is quite a core concern when it comes to artificial intelligence. However, in the Eurobarometer survey taken in mid-2024, it was actually found that the Maltese have the highest positive outlook in all of the 27 countries of the EU. So again, even in terms of workforce, we have a very high optimism for AI and what it brings to the table. And this is also from the IMF report. So this is actually how much AI we use in technology. So it's not just statistics about like optimism, right? It's good to be optimistic and to have plans and so forth, but you need to put your money where your mouth is, right? So we do actually have a high AI usage. We're sixth most in the EU at the moment, which is quite a feat, even given our size. And in terms of the share of enterprises, we're well ahead on average compared to the rest of the EU, which you can see in the black bars over there. So some more tangible things. So pilot projects in AI in the Maltese Islands. So these were identified way back in 2019 as part of Malta's AI strategy, which was one of the very first in the world, really, for AI systems. And we had pilot projects in various sectors. So, for example, in education, the goal of the system is to be able to automatically produce outcomes for students, improve the curricula, etc. There's the one for health and pharmacies, which controls the stock of medicines. That's what we call pharmacy of your choice. So it's a scheme to provide medicines to, for example, the elderly and vulnerable persons. With AI, we hope to improve both the stocking and also the system of how medicine is consumed, makes it much more efficient. For utilities is another interesting one. So utilities, in terms of us, is mostly energy and power, but there's two facets to it. So you have the preventive maintenance side, where you can have, for example, the energy operator sees that there's a lot of breakdowns happening in the north of Malta, so they can focus their work there based on those analytics. On the other side, there's the customer-facing approach for AI, which listens to customers' complaints, for example, and addresses them more quickly. So that's double facet. Traffic management speaks for itself. I'm not sure if you're aware, but we are very car dependent in Malta. We take a car to go to the grocer, which is 1 block away. So it's something that we do, unfortunately. I'm part of the problem myself, so can't say much. But traffic management is thus very important, given how small and dense the island is. So the goal for the project there would be for faster accident management, better traffic flow, etc. AI and tourism is two facets. Again, you can help the operators in terms of kiosk and queue management, and also tourists to have kind of a tailored experience. So let's say you like to go to the beach, for example. Malta has excellent beaches, even Gozo and Comino, the 3 islands. And with the AI system, you can then identify which experience is best for you. And the customer service one then is more based upon chatbots. So effectively, you need a public service. For example, you go to government. I don't know who I'm going to talk to. It's a common problem everywhere, I think, not just in Malta. So having an agent there could help you direct you to the right person, or maybe even give you the answer. So you don't have to go queue up a whole day at a government department. So a bit about the MDIA now. I spoke a lot about Malta. So that's us. And we're a dual role kind of authority here. So we're both the regulator for AI, cybersecurity, in a sense, data, but we also work to promote innovation in Malta. So we try to keep the balance. It's, as Alan rightly said before, in a sense. So you can see our areas there. They're all written down. I won't go into that because it's a lot of detail. But the vision is to be the forward-thinking authority and fostering trust in innovative technologies. So regulation and innovation, the most harmonious balance possible. So a bit about the AI regulation, which we are mainly tasked with in the EU. This is the EU AI Act. It's been talked about quite often today, which I'm happy about. It's the first legal framework in the world for artificial intelligence. Of course, that makes it controversial as well, but that's always an interesting discussion for us. And the nice thing about the AI Act for us is that given our size and how close the Maltese are with each other, we can take a tailored approach, which helps us to get closer to the operators and make sure that the way we implement the legislation where proportionality is allowed is more tailored to operators. So where we can apply proportionality, we make sure that we don't over-regulate and help people really get to grips with opening their businesses. And really, we really want to promote AI development in Malta, given how forward-thinking we are about it. So the AI Act, I won't go into it too much because we could go for a whole couple of hours. I'm sure you don't want that, but it's a risk-based approach. There are 4 tiers to the AI Act, and there's the prohibited systems, high risk, the transparency obligations, and the minimal risk. Now, to be very, very clear, and I like to lead with this when I mention the regulation, the vast majority of systems fall in the last category. So when entrepreneurs are building systems with AI, it doesn't necessarily mean, listen, you're going to have a lot of work to do, or where's your system is going to be prohibited. There's plenty of AI systems. I can mention simple ones like smart home applications, things which change the lights, for example. There could be stuff like spam filters, very conventional AIs. Those are all no obligations. And then there's stuff like chatbots, for example, and some elements of deepfakes, which just have transparency obligations. So that's just, listen, mention that your content is coming from an AI. I think it makes sense, right? So if you generate art using AI, it should say this has been generated with, for example, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever you used. I think it's also better for rights holders, artists, etc., so we can preserve their content as well. Now, high-risk systems, it's where the work begins for the operator, and we try to guide operators as well from our perspective. High risk is, for example, systems in education or employment. So it's places where you can have persons be deprived of basic rights. I'll give you an example. So let's say you go to the hospital for treatment. Malta has a completely free healthcare system for citizens, so this is very important. Let's say for some reason they introduce a system which screens people for access to healthcare down the line. And this system starts taking into account biases from data, which is, as we all know as technologists, data contains bias. There's no way around it. And let's say, for example, persons of a certain ethnic descent are denied access to healthcare because of the AI. That's what makes it a high-risk system. So what mitigations are in place for high-risk systems? I've heard a lot of conversations today, people saying, but ultimately, who is responsible when an AI system is prohibited or it's high risk? Who gets fines or penalties, for example? So the AI Act, the nice thing is that it addresses this. And effectively, providers, so that is the developer of the AI system, needs to make sure that their system goes through certain rigorous assessment tests. For example, if you have a high-risk system, you need to have a conformity assessment. It's like getting the CE for a medical device or a toy, for example. You need to go through governance systems, risk management, documentation. The requirements are all laid out very clearly. And you have to do all of these if your system is deemed to be high risk. So that helps you make sure your testing is in order, your AI system is good and powerful enough, but also that you're not mistreating people at the end of the day. And if providers stray from these obligations, there are substantial penalties, up to % of global turnover and millions of euros for people who do not comply. So at the end of the day, people will be held accountable for very, very prohibited systems, for example, or high-risk systems which are not reported as such. So something about what we're doing as MDIA on the flip side is that we don't want the Act just to come out of nowhere. It's been enforced since last August, but there are procedural application rules. We want people to be informed well in advance. So we are meeting with various sectors of industry, like education and health, especially the high-risk areas, of course, because, for example, maybe the education system wants to procure an AI system. In these times, it's very common. So we're meeting with them to explain the Act, explain their obligations, what they can expect, and what to look out for when procuring systems as well. Apart from these sectors, we're also working very hard to meet with industry. We treat developers very highly, and we love that Malta has a very rich developer environment. So it's important for us to also meet with industry and say, listen, the Act is coming. Let's just make sure you have your stuff in order, and we can help you where you need assistance. So we also offer guidance in some of our programs, which I'll get to now. So the Technology Assurance Sandbox is one of our initiatives. This is really cool. It's similar to the Financial Sandbox that Alan mentioned for MFSA. And this we've been using for AI very recently. So the way the sandbox works is, let's say there is a government-funded project. They get, for example, 100,000 euros to build an AI system in employment. It selects people based on their CVs, history, etc. If it's an AI system, they come to us in any case, since it's a certain scientific government-funded project, so we check them. But if we see that we can help them in any way in their journey to get compliant with the regulation, we, of course, onboard them into our sandbox, where we have the full program listed here. They can be residents for up to 4 years. We have a pool of national technical experts, so these are people who are, for example, very qualified on AI. We certify these people, we make them available to clients, and anyone who goes into the sandbox picks a technical expert, for example, on AI, who will help them comply with certain objectives that they set. And more importantly, recently we've been making a step. Listen, like for example, if you have a high-risk system and you've determined this, we will help you as MDIA with guidelines how to conform with the AI Act. So that's something we're doing as well. Now, something even more interesting here, especially for any entrepreneurs in the audience, is our brand new Digital Innovation Hub. The DMCC had a very interesting presentation earlier today, and they showed off a crypto center that they've built here in Dubai. And I was amazed at how similar it is to our own D-Hub. So I'm very happy that even though we're from separate jurisdictions, separate countries, and separate cultures, and very separate regulatory frameworks, we still managed to come up with a very similar concept. So it shows that even the forward-thinking mentality in Dubai is similar to what we think in Malta. And I think that we're on the right track there. So a bit about the D-Hub. It's basically a full ecosystem. So we give access to startups to a very, very big network immediately. They're not on their own anymore. They have access to academia, public and private entities, mentorship programs, upskilling, funding, opportunities. And there's also access to the full European network of European digital innovation hubs. So just looking at this, I think that number has gone up since I made the slide. There's over 200 in the entire EU. And we give startups full access to the rest of this European network. So it's a very good place to share expertise, opportunities, lessons learned, joint trainings, And it really helps new businesses start off and get accelerated quite quickly. So these are the main functions of the hub. I didn't put a whole video together as it would take very long, but as I mentioned, there are plenty of opportunities. We help people get European funding and national funding. We help people get mentorship, like the people from the MCC mentioned. You might have tech businesses where people are really good developers, but they have no clue when it comes to marketing, for example, or accounting. Maybe they have no clue when it comes to legal issues, or they don't have the people for it. So we can provide that assistance in terms of consultancy or mentorship or training, whatever they need. And that way they can focus on what they do best, the technology. So we try to identify gaps that these startups have, and the Digital Innovation Hub, or the Hub MT as we call it, aims to fill exactly those gaps. So basically, again, you focus on what you really like to do, and when you have issues, you speak with us and we see how we can get you moving. And really importantly, we also have physical laboratories in our D-Hub, so apart from all this mentorship and assistance, there's physical office space. Right now, we're hosting 7 startups, and we have plenty applying as well. So those are all in-house at MDIA. And beyond this, we also offer labs for 3D printing, for example, animation, and super important, this year we're also going to have the most powerful computer in all of Malta. So that's the high-performance computer. And that will be a number of H100 GPUs, just to give you an idea of the compute. That will be about 15 petaflops. So internationally, I know there are exascale factories being built, but in terms of Malta scale, 15 petaflops is a very, very powerful compute. And we'll be offering this as a complement to our sandbox. So besides offering a regulatory framework and helping people comply with the regulation, we also give them the actual digital development access to, for example, deploy their AI systems. So you can upload your data, you can run your models, you can train your systems, and you actually have a place to both be compliant with the regulation and actually build your system. And these are all either free or at a reduced cost. So apart from having access to all of these facilities, you are saving a lot of money as well. So you can focus that money on building your business instead, and you really build your idea up, essentially. So I'll be honest, we're a bit ahead on time, but it was quite a flowing presentation, so we'll open the floor to questions. Thank you.
Everyone, raise your hand, and I'm going to approach you so that you can ask your question. Don't be shy. I think it was a very interesting presentation. I can ask a question so far. How do you work with startups? And let's say if there's a foreign startup that would like to set up in Malta, how long does it usually take, and what it takes for them to get a funding, a license, or how does the process look?
So very pertinent question. So setting up a business doesn't take much time. So there's the process, which can be a number of days just to set up the business. And they need to go to some entities to get their VAT number and stuff like that. But that's separate entities. With us, they apply on our D-Hub MT portal that's available online. We do a due diligence exercise, just make sure their company is in order, they're based in Malta, stuff like this. And if we see that the project is interesting, we actually meet with them, we see what they're going to work on, and then essentially they get access to all of those services. So as I said, the high-performance computer will be deployed by the end of the year, and I'm sure there will be a lot of demand for that one.
Alan, also a question to you. Have you experienced any challenges working under MICA since last year? We spoke about this a lot, you know, in the morning, especially during the compliance panel. It's interesting to hear your perspective.
Yes. So, MICA is a vertical function, so it's a separate function from my own. So, my function focuses specifically on digital operation resilience, but it also includes crypto asset service providers, like it includes banks, insurance undertakings. So that is being taken care of by a separate function. Here in Malta, we have 4 financial entities which have already been licensed under MICA. They were previously licensed in Malta under the previous regime, the VFA Act. But I can say that Malta is one of the most experienced jurisdictions who can regulate crypto asset service providers. So the value added there, rather than seeing it from our perspective as regulators, licensing these kind of financial entities, is that a financial entity that wants to be licensed in that area has access to a regulator with now already 7 years of experience. And rather than the rudimentary licensing process, there is also value added to it. So you can speak with a regulator who's experienced, that can give you information about critical success factors and potential pitfalls or issues, things that you need to take care of, cybersecurity considerations that you need to take care of, how the process normally goes to get the due diligence and the other compliance stuff in place. We have quite a number of very serious entities who have been obtaining the license, but it's not only on the service provider's part, it's also on the issuer's part. So we already have 3 issuers, 2 of which are electronic money token issuers. So it has been challenging, yes, but I think that experience that helped us a lot, because we know the business, we know the area, we have experience in it. So it has not been that much, that much tough.
Thank you. Lately, just recently, 2 big digital assets providers such as OKX and Crypto.com obtained MiCA licenses in Malta, expanding their presence. Yes. Anyone? Still? Any questions? I can't see your hands. Okay. How do you find Dubai so far in terms of maybe some cooperation when it comes to financial security, cybersecurity, when it comes to AI regulation? Because we heard from local community, local authorities, we heard from the MCC, we heard from Ras Al Khaimah. How do you assess the situation in Dubai? How do you assess potential collaboration between the 2 countries?
So let me go myself. So very inspirational indeed. I'm extremely honored to be here speaking, and I was also honored to be living in Dubai in the last few days. This is quite an amazing jurisdiction. It's quite amazing how things are being handled and what is currently going on, especially in the innovative technology arrangements here. I think there is a lot of opportunity for collaboration. There is a lot of opportunity for sharing of experiences. I think that is the spirit of it. I don't know whether you want to add anything, Neil.
So I fully agree. It's been surreal to be in Dubai. I think it's a very, very technologically advanced jurisdiction. And I really enjoyed the MCC's presentation today and RACDAO as well. Like really, really cool stuff. They're well ahead of the curve globally, I would say, as well. And I think it's in the right direction. A lot of monetary investment, even massive buildings. So it's something we like to see, for sure. I think in terms of collaboration, as Alan said, the floor is open. Malta is always open to collaborating and lessons learned. We can share our experience from the EU jurisdiction as well. I particularly would like, for example, to learn more about how did the MCC put up their centers, for example, or what they're looking forward to for the AI regulation and policies. There was a doctor speaking this morning as well about this. I mean, very interesting stuff.
That is true. Thank you so much, gentlemen. If anyone, one more take, has any questions for Malta Digital Innovation Authority and Malta Financial Services Authority. If not, I would like to thank you again, gentlemen. It was very insightful. We will see each other in Malta later this year. Everyone just would like to say one more thank you to our amazing guests from Malta. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you have any questions, this is a unique opportunity to maybe speak to Alan and Neil off stage, and I think you will stick around for a few days. So thank you again.